Welcome back to Without Shortcuts. Today we are making a meat sauce.
So real quick, just reach down, hit that like button, maybe give the channel a quick subscription. It's going to make sure that your sauce comes out just the way you want it.
Right. Now this sauce is going to finish off the entree for our date night meal. So if you haven't seen it already, go back and watch the pasta video that we just shot so that you've got something to put your sauce on. Now this is a great, easy, delicious sauce that you could put on just about any pasta. We're going to go ahead and put it on spaghetti.
Like Brian said, we did a pasta video, and originally that pasta video was part of this sauce video, and that whole thing just kind of grew out of hand and we couldn't control it any longer. So we had to come back. We did a couple of reshoots and we made them into their own videos separately. So if you see, a couple of inconsistencies or you see something that seems like there's a skip, that's probably the reason why. But in the end, this video is very easy to follow. The recipe is great and you come out with a really strong final product. So with that, let's go ahead and get into it.
If you're gonna make spaghetti, obviously you need a sauce. Now, you could certainly go open up a jar of something, but that is not what we're doing here. We're gonna show you how to make just a simple meat sauce. It's really easy and super delicious.
So the thing with sauce is you wanna make sure you don't have too many ingredients. You wanna make sure that you can make it the same way each time, and it's just way easier with fewer ingredients, and really it's just gonna taste better in the end, and you're gonna get the full flavor that you're looking for. So what we really need is a decent quality extra virgin olive oil. You're gonna need some ground meat. You can use just about anything. I did this with turkey last week. It turned out great. In this case, we're just gonna use 1 pound of ground pork. You're gonna use a little bit of wine. Then we have 1 can, 28 ounces San Marzano peeled whole tomatoes. You do wanna make sure that they're the San Marzano, high quality. They have the right flavor to complement everything else that's going into the dish. Then we've got just a few fresh leaves of basil, 1 small onion. We're going to use 3 large cloves of garlic. This is definitely to taste. And then the last thing we're going to add is just a few red chili flakes. Now, once we have all this pulled together, we're going to make sure everything is ready before we actually go to the heat. So to get started, Brian's going to dice up this onion and get our garlic ready to go so we can throw it in our pot.
Now, pretty much every YouTube cooking channel out there has a video that'll show you how to cut an onion. I'm going to show you how I do it. So we're going to cut the stem end off first, and that gives us a nice flat spot to balance the onion. Cut through the root. That's going to help hold the onion together, and then we're going to go ahead and peel both halves of the onion. Now once you've got your onion peeled, we're going to make 1 horizontal slice through it, just like that. And then we're going to make a couple of vertical slices just like this. And then all you got to do is chop straight down through your onion. And then we're just going to repeat with the other half of the onion. Okay. Onions ready to go. And then to peel your garlic, all you're going to do is take the flat side of your knife, smash it down, and then the skin comes right off. Alright, so now we've got our onions and garlic ready to go for our sauce. The last thing that we're going to prepare is our basil. So we're going to take it here, make sure we have it in a nice little stack. And then you're going to roll the leaves up nice and tight, just like this. And then all we're going to do is just finely slice them.
So once all of our ingredients are prepared, now we're ready to go onto the heat and get this thing going. So the first thing we're going to do is get our meat rendered down and prepared to go in towards the end. So to do that, first thing, we're going to get a little bit of heat underneath the pan. Just about a medium high. You're going to use just a little bit of, a reasonable quality olive oil. You're going to start getting that heated up and get your pan nice and warm. Took just a couple of seconds, got the pan just starting to get warmed up. We're going to take our meat, we're going to leave it in the block as is. We're just going to turn it into the pan and let that whole side get nice and brown and crisped up. Okay, as we get just a few little wisps of smoke coming off of that, we're going to take and just very carefully flip this whole piece over. Get a little more color on the other side. And then as that starts to cook down just a little bit, then we'll start just breaking it up into pieces in the pan. And this doesn't need to be super small pieces, just kind of break it up as you go. And you just want to cook it until you've got a nice little bit of color on some of the outside and all of those little pink patches are gone. So I'm just letting this sit in the pan so that it can kind of develop some of that brown on the bottom of it. You want that Maillard reaction, as it's referred to. So you want to let it just sit, kind of color up, get those good flavors developed. And then again, just kind of get it all in the middle of the pan, get it pushed down. And again, just let it sit. Hopefully get a little more color on there. And while that's happening, I'm going to get a plate. I'm going to get some paper towel and just get that ready because we're going to take this all out and let that drain while we finish the rest of the sauce. Yep, there we go. We're starting to get some color. Even with this nice, high quality mise en pan that I'm using, I do tend to get a little bit warmer towards the front. So make sure that your pan is kind of consistently hot, so that everything's getting cooked a little more consistently for you. Alright, now we're getting good color. We've got that nice little bit of remnants on the bottom of the pan. That's the fawn. We're going to deglaze that part out of the pan. It's just going to be nothing but flavor. We're going to turn the heat off. I'm going to take this over to my plate with the paper towel. I'm going to try and keep as much of the fat in the pan as I can. And I'm just going to push the meat out onto my paper towel to let it drain. Alright, so our pan is still hot. The heat's off on the stove, but the pan's still warm. We're going to leave what's left in there. All of that is just concentrated flavor on the bottom of it that we're going to harvest in just a minute. But we're going to take the meat that we have, we're just going to wrap it up, and we're going to set that aside and let that drain for just a minute. And then we're going to prepare the rest of our sauce before we start to let it simmer. With the fawn on the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to take some more of the oil, and you're going to use more of it than you expect to here. You know, you want to have about 1/4 of a cup total in the bottom of that pan. So you want a pretty good healthy amount. It should coat the bottom of your pan. Once we have that, we're going to turn our heat back on. You don't want to turn it on too high, but you do want it to be hot. You just don't want any of the fawn on the bottom of the pan to actually burn. Otherwise it's going to add a bitterness to your sauce. So we're going to turn that on, let it heat up until we get a little bit of shimmer on the oil. With the hot pan, put the oil in, everything's ready to go. Back up to heat, so we're just going to take the onion that we already diced, we're going to throw it into our oil, get that little bit of sizzle on there, it's perfect. And we're going to get those stirred in and start sweating them down. Now you want to add your onions in first and let them cook for a little while because they take longer to cook than your garlic that you're going to add next. Just as the onions are starting to get, just a little transparent, everything's starting to get nice and fragrant. You have a nice bit of color coming in. That's when we're going to start getting our garlic ready to go in. So our garlic we're going to crush. Just put a couple pieces into our garlic press. Squeeze that out. The reason you want to crush it is you just want to destroy those cell membranes, those cell walls as much as you can to make sure you're getting all the flavor you can out of your garlic. So we're going to crush that in. Use our knife. Scrape that off. Then stir that portion in to let that start cooking. And now you're really going to start making the house smell good. Just keep an eye on the temperature in your pan. Everything on the bottom, just so you can kind of see it here. Nothing's burned. That's all just nice brown, golden. That's going to be great. You don't want that to turn black because if it does, then you have a problem. So just control your heat. Everything's starting to sweat out. You get just a little bit of color through your onions. And then, so something we didn't mention in the beginning, we're going to add just a little bit of concentrated tomato paste. You can buy this stuff just about anywhere. We're just going to add 1.5, 2 tablespoons, somewhere in there, if I can get it. There we go. And we'll stir that in really quickly. And you can see that color. Still getting dark, but definitely nothing burning there. And now is when we take advantage of that. This part is called the deglazing. We get our onions ready, pat those down, pan's nice and hot. We're going to take our wine. Just to be safe, we're going to turn our heat off right away. Just pour that in. Heat back on. And then we're just going to scrape, get all that good stuff from the bottom pulled up into our sauce. Alright, we're going to bring that back up to an aggressive simmer. Take our can of tomatoes, we're just going to pour that right in. Okay, we're going to use that same can, we're going to get just a little bit of water in it, kind of rinse out the inside, and we're going to put that water right back in our pan. So about half the can filled with water. Right in. You're going to stir this up, break up some of these whole tomatoes. Don't worry about what they look like right now. These are going to break down as you let this simmer. So just stir everything together. Okay, we're going to let that start coming back up to heat. While we do that, we're going to take our red chili flake, just a sprinkler, right there. And we'll let that simmer for just a little bit, let it reduce down a little bit. Then we'll add our meat in and it'll just be a race to the finish line. So our sauce has simmered just like this for probably, I don't know, like 15 minutes, maybe 20. You can see the line on the side of the pan where it started to reduce down a little bit. So we're just about there. We're at the point where we can put our meat back in to make sure that all those flavors come together correctly. So we're going to do that. Just pick them up on the paper towel. Oh, and dump all that goodness right in there. And then we're just going to add our nice chopped up basil. Stir those together. Pan's getting pretty full at this point, so don't be too aggressive. Just make sure everything's mingled together. If you have any more big chunks of the tomatoes, they should be nice and soft by now. You should be able to just kind of break them up. Just push on them with your spoon. And now we're going to let this simmer. By simmer, we mean like a couple bubbles here and there, but it shouldn't be like aggressively bubbling at all. Just a really low, light simmer. We're going to put a cover on this so that it doesn't lose too much of its liquid. Just leave a little crack on the side. We're going to let it go for at least an hour, but you can let it go for up to, 2 hours, 3 hours, and it'll be just fine.
2 hours later.
Alright, so our sauce has been cooking for about 2.5 hours. Our pasta cooked for half a minute. Let's go ahead and put these two together and see what we got. Sauce that up there.
Finish it off with a little fresh grated Parmesan because that's never going to hurt anything. And ready to give it a shot. Go ahead.
Man, you cannot beat fresh pasta. Oh, so good.
Just that texture. It's toothsome. Just that little bit of resistance to it.
Yep. And the sauce is great. The basil comes through real nice. That's a good sauce.
The other thing with the fresh pasta is it tastes so good that it's no longer just a delivery system for the sauce. You actually get some added value because you made it fresh yourself.
Right.
So this is great. This is a really nice addition to anybody's date night or for a Tuesday night or any other night. Try this out. Put the whole thing together and let us know how it turns out. Even if you do a different sauce, you do your own pasta, whatever it is. We'd love to see it. Tag us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, hit us up in the comments and let us know how it goes. And until the next time around, skip the shortcuts.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.